19 each year is observed as the International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence in conflict, or let's say during conflicts. This to raise awareness on the need to put an end to such forms of violence. And we have invited just the right people to talk about this form of violence. We'll also talk about education medical focus on the long vacation or summer holidays, how best to occupy your children during such moments. Now, the program is Turn Up. Stay with us. Everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of your program Turn Up, a program that seeks to empower women and the girl child. And today we focus on sexual violence during conflict, in times of conflict. Is the International Day celebrated every June 19. We equally talk about education, how to best occupy your children during the summer holiday. If you want to send us your reactions, you can write to us on the number you'll be seeing on your TV screen. You can equally tag us on YouTube and on Facebook. You have all our past editions. You just need to type Ndih Turn Up and you have all our past editions. Now I want us to watch this report. We'll be right back. Over the past decades, there has been a paradigm shift in the understanding of the scourge of conflict-related sexual violence as a threat to international peace and security. It remains essential to recognize and tackle gender inequality as a root cause and drive of sexual violence in times of war and peace. The response required to address such crimes includes the multi-dimensional services for survivors. The effects of conflicts-related sexual violence borne by the survivors and their children echo across generations through trauma, stigma, poverty, poor health, and unwanted pregnancy. According to the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, sexual violence is a brutal form of physical and psychological warfare rooted in the gender. Inequality extends not only in zones of conflict, but in other everyday personal lives. The persistence of such forms of violence undermines peace and security. Welcome back. It's time for us to know who our guests are, and I want to start with somebody that is very close to me. She's called Quinta Afon, a gender activist. She's from Shada. Now, what's it all about?
CHADA is the short form for, or the acronym for the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa.
Okay.
Yes. It's basically a human rights group organization. It's a non-governmental organization. And the main activity is advocacy for human rights.
Okay.
We have different departments through which we achieve that objective.
And we are in the heart of the crisis because we're talking of the southwest region where your headquarters are actually based. Now, what are you doing to help, especially women and young girls who are trapped by the crisis?
Right. We have a lot of services at our organization, and we receive women, girls, and even men, because we offer services like legal services.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are a lot of lawyers from our organization who accompany some some of the detainees
Okay.
to their hearings in court. We
Okay.
also have a gender task force that welcomes women, listen to their concerns,
Okay.
and refer them to the appropriate quarters.
And what are their concerns when you
Some
talk
of
to
the
these
concerns
women?
are,
Because I know women are the most vulnerable group.
right. Most of the time, their concerns are sexual violence.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll be talking about
Yeah,
today.
that's what we'll be talking
All right. We also have Olive Buno. She is the CEO of Ngore Africa Ventures. Now, what's it all about?
Ngore Africa Ventures is a platform, and it is actually, when they say Ngore Africa Ventures, it is big. So Ngore Africa Ventures is in two. We have the movement, which is the NGO. The movement is to empower women and girls. That is the Center for Women Empowerment and Development. And the Ventures is the entrepreneurial side where we empower women for economic development. We employ some for things like fashion, African-inspired fashion.
Okay.
That we have we are training. I actually do some of the things myself.
Okay.
But right now we have people who train others, and then we just do the stuffs and put in stores and collect our money. So Ngore Africa Ventures is a center for women empowerment and development.
Now, for how long have you been existing?
Since 2016, I founded it when I was doing my master's.
That's almost 3 years. 3 years.
It's 3 years, but it was not so. I was not so active in it then because I was still in school. Then I was doing my master's. Yeah. Pardon?
What are your major challenges?
Oh, sometimes it's funding, especially when I started, because then I had a passion. And I lacked the basic knowledge on how to go about it, especially when I was starting it as a foundation. After I got it registered, the next thing was, you want to do projects, you want to do this, and somebody will call you and be like, no, that is not how it's supposed to be done. I was just like working with raw passion, and I needed to do the investigation, attend UN cluster meetings, and learn what is supposed to be done. And I think that we're getting there.
Now, and how many women have you helped so far? Because we are talking about 2 years, 3 years on already.
Yes, yes. For the ones that we can count as our success stories, I would say that we have helped over 100. But the ones that we have close to us that we are still monitoring, we have 4.
Okay.
Those 4 are like girls because we are really concerned about girls who, due to lack and poverty, go into street work. We have some that we took out of some motels and hotels in Boya and decided to help them. And she stayed with somebody that was in my church, and then the person trained her, and she opened her own place, and she promised me she's helping others, and recently we just also helped another. So those are 4 people that we monitor, we follow up.
Which means I actually do follow up.
Yes, we do follow
see
up
the end results and actually see if the girls maybe have settled and they're actually making, trying to help your families.
Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard because you want to follow up and you cannot really, the people don't give you that opportunity. But these 4 are like family now to us, like, they're like, hello, how are you doing? They answer, and then they give their complaints.
Which means that you treated them so well, and they don't want to like depart from you.
Yeah, they call me Mama.
Now let's get to our subject of the day. We are talking of the International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence in conflicts. Because the conflict, we have 2 crucial words there. We have sexual violence and we have conflicts. Now, how do we define it?
Right. Sexual violence. First of all, I must define that term. It is the use of force by a perpetrator to engage in sexual activity, to attempt or to actually engage and commit it, using force without the consent of the person. So that's the definition of sexual violence. But now in conflict, it is this kind of crime that is committed in a conflict area when conflict is ongoing. So that is the definition of sexual violence in conflict.
Now, when you look at Cameroon, when you look at Africa, now is this so much pronounced? Do you see this form of sexual violence?
Yes. Sexual violence is actually the crime, and it has various forms. For example, it has rape, it has sexual assault, it has sexual abuse. It has all those forms, and they are existing, especially through everywhere there is a conflict, especially political conflict, ethnic conflict, terrorism, and all of that. You will find that sexual violence increases during times like that.
All right.
Yes.
Yes, I think that when we talk about Cameroon and sexual conflict, it is very, very practical because there are a lot of cases because I really don't work on...
Because I really want us to talk about the,
yes,
of the cases. Continue.
I visit those places, I visit those camps to see the IDPs and they share with me their personal stories and a lot of women. There was one that actually came to the center, that's the Center for Human Rights and Democracy for Africa. She met me personally and she was like, I want to see your boss only. I was like, he's not around, you can talk to me. And she got to tell us that she came from the bush, she needed help. One man offered to help her. And when she went to the man's house, the man was like, if you sleep with me, your life will be better. I can keep you and feed you. And she was like, no, she could not do that, although I don't know how it went, because of course she cannot tell me the whole story. She will tell me what I want to hear. So I'm also a psychologist because that's what I studied. So sometimes when people talk, I listen to what they are not saying. And so from what I could gather from this woman's countenance and what she was telling me was that she has been abused several times. She does not trust people. She needed help. Although sometimes some of them don't want to really come out because of course she does not know me. She does not know if she can trust me with that kind of information. But I thank God we are still communicating now and she's in a better position.
Now, which means I'll have more cases?
Yes.
They happen every
because
day.
I want us to have so many such examples. Yes.
Okay.
Let's come to the cases.
Yes. Yesterday, we were having a community sensitization about this because one of the objectives of this day is to raise awareness in order to put an end to this crime, okay? So our center, we've been carrying out sensitization for the past 3 days, and yesterday we were in Limbe, and we visited one of the health facilities in Limbe, and one of the recipients of some of the products that we carried, and in short, one of those who attended, our meeting, she confided in us that there was a case in Ndih now, presently, that the girl just got raped last week, and they didn't know what to do. So the information we gave them was helpful, even though it was a little late, because we were advising that they should take it very seriously. When it comes to rape, they have 72 hours. Many people don't know that you have a maximum of 72 hours to go to the hospital and get what we call post-exposure prophylaxis, so that it can reduce the chances of a survivor getting pregnant or contracting STDs or HIV and AIDS and hepatitis and all of that, and also the chances of getting infected. So the post-exposure prophylaxis is very, very important for a survivor to get within 72 hours. And if this is the most important message we are passing here, so be it. It is something that happens every day, but unfortunately, these survivors don't have information about what to do.
Now, the question I want to ask that, do they actually come to you to tell you this story? Or you go to them? Do they feel free to tell you this story? Do they actually, because if you don't denounce, nobody will know about your story.
Yeah, sometimes they come, few come, but when we go to the sites, like the camps where they're actually hiding now, and the girls are gathered because my concern is women empowerment. So I gather the women and start talking with them like, what are you going through? Trust me, just tell me, don't mind my age, I can help you. And you just see them coming out, like some will burst into tears, get all emotional, and I will share with them because you must create that rapport. Sometimes I'll tell them my own story so that they can feel they can see me being vulnerable in front of them, and so they can be vulnerable in front of me too. And that is how I get to get their stories, because I also I write, I'm a poet, so I write on the WordPress platform, and so I need those stories to use them and their permission to use them to be able to change other women's life, and also to enable other women who have passed through similar situations to know that they can
Now the
speak
question
out.
I want to ask is this, now, with the crisis, because the crisis is on, we're talking about sexual violence during crisis or in times of crisis. Now, is it that it has increased now because of the crisis, or it was there before?
Sexual violence, normally it was there before, but this time around, remember, it is the kind of violence that happens during conflict, and this is differentiated.
Which means that it's different from the normal.
It's different, and the source.
Because I want us to look at the difference
That's what I want to
here.
explain to you, because, okay, who are the perpetrators here? You will understand the difference by identifying the perpetrators. The perpetrators of this crime are people who are directly involved with the conflict or indirectly linked to the conflict, which means that we have people like maybe the armed
the military
state armed groups, non-state armed groups,
Yeah.
and some other people who are indirectly linked. You have to understand that. So it has to be a link to the conflict for it to be sexual violence in conflict.
All right.
But then you have the other regular sexual violence, which happens, for example, in house where you have intimate partner violence and all of that. Yeah, so that's
Which
the
means that
difference.
it has doubled, is increasing.
It increases,
is
especially
increasing
now
by the
that
day,
Cameroon is, especially the southwest and northwest region where these things are happening. I have so many reports coming even from the northwest region. People write and give us all these stories like, this one happened to this person. You can see a boy who does nothing, is in the bush, maybe he is part of the separatists, and he has impregnated 2 girls. Like one is 18, one is 15.
Right.
And it is really, that is sexual violence to the highest order. It made me cry.
And one of the most important things you permit me to say is that even the United Nations has identified that sexual violence is being used as a tactic for war. You understand? So it is a strategy to get your the people whom you want to have influence over. It's a way of
terrorism.
Yeah, so well, this is kind of different. It's a way of saying that, for example, if they go to a community and they rape everybody there, they have control over that person. Remember, sexual violence has to do with abuse of power. So that person has the power over that community, rapes everybody there, and weakens their support system, and they cannot do anything anymore. So that is, it's really
like
taking a
a way of
toll on the
sending a
people, because
message.
it wants, this is a form of violence that wants to just make the people miserable in order that they can stop.
It's like
what
sending
they're
a
doing.
message that I control you, I have power over you, like defeats the person's self-esteem. And it is, especially for women, it kills them, because a woman's dignity is her sex life, I think so. And when it's like you take that away from her in a violent way, she becomes like you're submissive, as some people will call it, and we don't want that for women. We want women to be stronger. Of course, this happens even to some guys, because now there is gay talk and that. So sexual violence is not just a woman thing. We're talking about women more because we are a gender task force, and so we have to empower the women that we support.
All right. Now, I want us to look at how exposed are the women. We are looking at the causes here.
Right.
What will provoke that easily?
Okay, there are the 3 root causes of sexual violence. Number 1 is gender inequality, and that answers your question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gender inequality is not just like, okay, this thing is not balanced. When we talk about gender equality with inequality without talking about gender inequity, sometimes it does not really reflect what we're trying to talk about, because gender equality has to do with equal opportunities, and gender equity has to do with not just the equal opportunities, but granting the opportunities with an audience. Like, okay, I've given you the opportunity, what you say matters. That is equity. Like, I did a post earlier today, and like 3 people are standing, this one is shorter, and you all put them on the same chair. That is equality. But when you allow them to see, you grant this other one a site where, although he is shorter, he can see. That is equity. And if it is granted well for both for women especially, it will help them to avoid situations that lead them into sexual violence, because most of the time they go in search.
It's a situation.
It's
I want us to look at the situation.
There is poverty.
That will push the woman into sexual violence, especially in times of conflict.
There is poverty. There is poverty. There is lack of self-esteem. There are some women who just feel like they belong here, and when somebody's like, come, they submit. They don't know their worth. That is why we often try to carry out sensitization.
You can say no when you're in such a situation? Can you say no?
Sexual violence
Especially
happens already when they have already overcome your power to say no.
Can I just add to that?
Yes.
Okay, sexual violence, happens when somebody, remember I told you that 3 root causes. You're asking, how do the women get exposed like that?
Yeah.
You have to understand that it is never their fault. Never. It has never been their fault, and it will never be.
Yeah.
It is because of, number 1, abuse of human rights.
Yeah.
You have the gender inequality, and you have the abuse of the rights, and you have the abuse of power. These people have a position of power. They want to use it over these people because it's a conflict situation, and they want these people to listen to them and to do as they want. And if they cannot do that, they're going to use any means. And remember, I told you,
which means that there is no, you cannot say no.
They put you in a place of surrender.
It's a force. It's not by. It's never by consent, because if you consent, then
it's not violence.
Violence anymore.
Yeah.
Which means that how does it manifest?
The manifestations, we're talking about the types. It, like I said, I don't know if this to answer your question, but there are different types. There are different forms. They manifest through sexual assault, sexual abuse, rape, through sexual abuse. Okay, it goes down to, for example, forced marriages. For example, you get a situation where you can go to a camp and you find girls there, and somebody, for example, you had a situation with, and that person has become, for example, now a soldier, and that person says, okay, I'll deal with you, and that person takes you from wherever you are and goes and sells you for marriage to somebody else. That is another form of sexual violence. So it's actually forced marriage, and it can also be human trafficking. Yes,
even abortion,
yes, or forced pregnancy, or forced abortion, and all of that. So those are some of the forms. Those are how they manifest. So it doesn't necessarily just mean that a soldier has to have sexual relations with you without your consent. That's not just all about sexual violence. Sexual violence entails all of that. It entails you having forced sexual relationships with the person, or attempted. Remember, it can also be attempted. So you can actually attempt to have a sexual relationship, or it includes human trafficking. So sexual violence also includes, another form is by you either selling maybe a girl or a man, for sexual exploitations.
Okay. Now we're trying to look for solutions as well, right?
Yes.
Now in that type of situation, in that particular moment, how do you handle it as a woman?
I think that first of all, you have to know your rights. Secondly, you have to know the people who offer services for women. If you choose to go out there and speak out, you will be saved. If it is a case of rape, the advice is that you try to seek medical attention. And sometimes most of these women who suffer sexual violence, especially in conflict, they don't have immediate access to medical attention. Either they are held bound somewhere, or they are owned by some certain masters, or people who more or less control their lives. And so the advice is that they should try by every means to confide in at least someone who can help them out, because they don't speak out. And that is what I really want to emphasize. That's what we really want to emphasize on. They should learn to let it out, because speak out because when you speak out, even just a word of encouragement to those watching right now, if you speak out something to me, if I do something wrong, before you want to hear it out, I will say it myself. I am free of it. Once you say it yourself, you are free of it. So when some other person is saying it again, it's no longer a challenge. You have accepted it and you are trying to move on.
Okay, just to add to what she has said, okay? First of all, number one, we have to understand that it is not easy. So we are telling the survivors out there right now. Number one, we understand that it is not easy for you to come and talk about it. Number two, we are encouraging you to come and speak to specialists. You don't necessarily have to speak to everybody, but you have to identify. I also want to make sure that we let you all know that United Nations has set aside this approach. Recently, in April, the United Nations passed a resolution called Resolution 2467, which strengthens the fact that survivors have to be taken into consideration. They have the first place, so they have a survivor-centered approach when it comes to sexual violence. What does that mean? It means that they are strengthening the fact that survivors must have justice. And survivors must also have healthcare. There's so many other things that they have listed, but healthcare, justice, psychosocial support, and all of that.
All right, now what's your organization doing to handle that?
Right now we have...
To address the problem? Yes,
right now for sexual violence, we actually had this, we're moving and collecting data out there for those women who, due to the conflict, the crisis that is going on in the southwest and northwest regions, they have gone into commercial sex work. So we are concerned with the women sex workers. So we went there, and sometimes it's hard because commercial sex, yes. So we've gone to those places both in Douala, Limbe and Boya, and collected data and information concerning them. And those that are willing to go, one has left. So I am really happy for one in Boya. She left, and we've already placed her in a vocational center where she's learning. She's learning seamstressing, and she's doing very well. And I talk with her daily because sometimes you leave them. I've had an experience where one left and went back. And when I went to talk to her, I guess she abused me. And you know, sometimes life can treat somebody so bad that the person does not think anything can be good.
I want to talk about the first 3 services that we have. We have the human rights service. We stand up for human rights. And secondly, we have a legal system. We have a legal system. Yes, we have a legal department in the center. And thirdly, we have a gender task force. We carry on.
There's also the conflict management for it.
We have a lot of sensitization going on. We educate these women, and also the gender task force helps to refer these women to the appropriate services. For example, if somebody needs psychosocial support, we know where to direct them, like a psychologist or a psychiatrist, because these are when they get traumatized, you need a specialist to attend to that kind of survival. You understand? We also refer them to the appropriate hospitals or medical facilities that will attend to them, especially when it comes to physical checkup and establishing the PEP, the first 3 days of the rape.
All right, I want to thank you for coming. Now I want us to watch this story talking about children hawking goods during the summer holiday just to survive their families. Let's watch. We'll be right back. The culture of child labor is still very much present in most parts of third world countries. Children below working age are seen to either fend for their families through hawking, petty article, or are forced to work as laborers in building sites.
Think about the generations and to say we want to make it a better place for our children and our children's children, so that they know it's a better world for them, and think if they can make it a better place.
These summer holidays, like others, have seen children hawkers invading the streets of Cameroon, one item or another. The many young children are parading the streets with either trays of granules or candies, bananas, among other items for sale. Drinking places are usually their target, as each child tries to make more money, some in preparation for the school reopening and others as a routine rendezvous at holidays. We caught up with this 8-year-old boy carrying bags at the popular Marché Sanaga in Douala.
Avec tout ce que nous vivons là.
The social climate is not a favorable one, I would say. Yet some parents still send their children out on the streets to hustle. It's true they have to fend for themselves and their families. But what become of the children later on? Some of them become vagabonds.
C'est irrécupérable.
Some parents are not in support of the idea that children should be hawking during holiday. Whether orphans or not, these children should be in their various houses or go to their villages to help their grandparents and learn the culture. However, parents and guardians tend to overlook the risk some of these children face when trading on the highway. Times are hard. If parents are sending their children out on the street, it's simply because they cannot cope with their feeding, lodging, and sending them to school. So the children too have to support their families. Times has become really difficult. You find 6, 7, 8 years old in markets, hawking all day, carrying goods for people. It's true that they need to go to school and they're looking for their school fees. They start doing it now so that they assist their parents when it's back to school period. Besides being attacked by thieves, these children are exposed to car accidents as they usually rush near any car which stops by to brandish their goods to passengers. Welcome back. We have two wonderful people who have just joined us here in the studio. It's a man and a woman. I always say men are partners to women. We cannot do without a man. That's why we always have to involve them in our program. And we have Frankie Yomba. He's a psycho-socialist. You're welcome to the program. Now, how are you today?
What?
How are you today?
I'm doing very well.
All right. We also have Clementine Mofo. She is a family counselor. Hope you're doing good.
Perfect.
All right. Now, I want us to continue with our discussion. We're talking about sexual violence in the times of conflicts. Now, to what extent does it affect women?
I think conflicts bring vulnerability. I mean, it makes women vulnerable, basically. They don't have nowhere to go if people don't protect them. Or if probably like the society or the men supposed to protect, like you said. Women cannot go without men, and men definitely
cannot go without women.
Yeah, because they are, if we start viewing them as people who give life itself, it will refrain us to do those atrocious things that we're doing to these women or even children. So I think at the time of conflict, it's very hard for them to kind of like find shelter, as the ladies explained a story about the one that trying to find shelter to a man's house, and then he wanted to basically have sexual intercourse with her. So it's a very, very difficult situation.
Now, what are the consequences, especially on the woman? You have just been sexually abused.
Yes.
Maybe you were used by force, maybe by soldier or whatsoever, and it's a time of conflict, you're hungry, and then, I mean, what are the consequences?
It's very, very important. The consequences, it depends of the victims, but most of the time, it's fear, low self-esteem, scare all the time, no trust, zero confidence, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean like I said, it depends on the victim, but most of them, they're always scared about, trusting somebody again. Because think about it, like if you're a victim of it, it's hard for you. You're in a society where it's hard for you to even speak out. Because if you speak up, people just, stigmatize you, say, oh, she's this or she's a. I mean, sexual violence. Let's call it what it is. In Africa, it's just a norm. It's not something that is being, spoke like, regularly. If you want to find it, you have to go to the Western country. They have like the Me Too movement. And if we start to be very, very harsh.
In Africa, in Cameroon, it's difficult for somebody to denounce or speak out against
Yes,
it
it's
because
very,
you're
yes.
afraid they're going to like say,
Exactly.
I mean, tag it on
I'm
you.
just going
and-
to take an example.
Mhm.
I was having a discussion with a friend today, and I was telling her, if you go to services or companies and you discreetly ask these women, how did you get this job? I'm telling you, most of them were victim of sexual harassment
Mhm.
at some point.
But they could say no.
They could say no.
They could say
But
no,
the thing is
but
this too.
in those in times of conflict, it's difficult to say because you're faced by situation, no
Yes.
way to say no.
Yes,
But
people in
if,
power already overpower, overkill your confidence,
Mhm.
your self-esteem,
Okay.
the respect of your body.
Mhm.
So basically, you are already at disadvantage.
Okay.
Basically, yeah.
now, generally they are traumatized,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
In most of the cases. Now, how do you pull them out of that trauma? Is it possible?
It has to be. How would I say? You need success story of people who was victim and
Okay.
actually pull themselves out.
Okay.
You need to work continuously with those girls, as the ladies say that they were working with some of the girls that were victim of sexual violence.
Mhm.
And you need to build the confidence, because that's the number one key. If you don't have confidence in yourself or self-esteem, you already is already at zero. You can't do anything at all. But I think that they need not only women working with them, but I think men need to speak up about sexual violence, because this is not a war against gender.
Mhm.
This is actually what is being lived up in the society.
Can the men speak up when they are not victims or they are not abused?
Oh yes,
Is
they
it
do.
possible?
They should. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible because, you hear a story in families where, maybe like the head of the family probably raped a child,
Of course.
and maybe a mother keep the secret for maybe like 20 years and everything. Somebody in the family knows.
Mhm.
Somebody in the family knows. As men, you don't need to be a victim to actually speak up about sexual violence, because
Okay.
you know one thing: when somebody say no to something, if you force your way through, that's abuse.
All right.
That's the bottom line.
Okay, let's take the case of women who find themselves in prostitution,
Mhm.
maybe because they were sexually abused,
Yeah.
maybe in a conflict zone,
Yeah.
and they've given up everything about life and decide to prostitute now to earn a living.
Yeah.
Now, is it easy to pull her out of it?
First of all, as you put the case scenario, it's not easy because she already gave up in life. The reason why is because nobody reach out, or even somebody reach out, she still feel like there's nothing. I would just give this. It's dangerous for someone to feel like a kamikaze. What does that mean? To feel like they don't have anything left to do in
Okay.
their life.
Okay.
But still, it's impossible, but it's possible too,
Okay.
because those people need help.
Okay.
If I see me as a person, I would see it as a way to cry out for help. I need help. If you see a woman who went through sexual violence and then ended up into prostitution, it doesn't mean that everything is she's you just have to you have to try. You have to try to pull her out. And for her, you need success story. We need more example in the society, instead of people who still advocate and talking about prostitution, who doesn't even hide anymore about the fact that they are prostitute. We need to stop that. Advocates prostitution, but actually help those women, because a lot of women, why are people going to prostitution sometimes? People don't ask themselves. It's poverty sometimes, number one. Number one is poverty. No, not even number one. Number one is low self-esteem. 2, poverty. And 3, because sometimes it's actually your brother or your sister who drag you into the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We have Clementine. Clementine, we'll talk about, we'll definitely come back to you, Clementine. We're here to talk about education.
Yep.
And it's a summer holidays. It's a long holiday and children are actually on vacation. Now, you have this project to occupy children during a summer holiday. Now, when you look around society today, now what's your observation with holidays and children?
If you notice, I'm not the usual me, very excited. Each time I get on air, because I'm listening to all those talks since morning, and it hurts me big time, because in as much as all those things, the biggest part of it are the children that suffer a whole lot.
Okay.
We're talking about sexual violence and all that. You don't even want to think about what the effect on the children.
Yeah, okay.
It hurts big time. That's why you just see like my face is falling. That's because of all this confusing atmospheres and situations placed before me. I just want to say, I think if I had a way on my own, I'll just collect all the children during these 3 months and just keep them somewhere. And after, like in an incubator, nobody touches them. And after 3 months, I take them back to their homes. All right, because during these 3 months of holidays, things are happening that hurts. The first thing is the parents don't know what to do with the children.
Okay.
Because they are having 3 months holidays, but the parents are working. The parents don't have 3 months holidays like the children. The children have more time at home. What are they doing with the time? What are they doing at home? And parents are like, the most I can do for you is, okay, you're off school in end of May and June. You find a way to send you to do something. Probably you can just start all over classes again. Sometimes they just don't even know how to go about it. Now that's where I come in with this project, the Kuvuki Creative Workshop. Every child who goes to school every day, you're just going to learn the ABCs and 1, 2, 3 to become an administrator. Administrator for what? In what? Where? By who? And all that.
They want creativity.
We need what actually pays is the creativity.
Okay.
You can bear with me. If you want to go back to Black history in the US and all that, the reason why the second revolution came up was because the Black man was standing up to see that the industries are being re-emphasized, because back there they were changing man labor to machinery. They were like, no, we want to do carpentry, we want to do engineering. That's the kind of engineering was using their hands and getting creative and all that. They were excited about it, but they realized that was getting them more empowered.
Okay.
Without them, they cannot do what they do.
Okay.
So they were replacing the manpower and man ideas and innovation into machines.
Okay.
Creating machines to take charge.
Okay.
Now, that has actually killed even creativity in our schools curriculum. You see the children go to school and they come back, they can only learn. Every day they come back with their homework. The homework is the 1 + 1 and the 3 + 3. Can you spare goat? Can you spare beans? Can you spare? Now, what do you do with the beans? You mustn't cook the beans all the time. You can use the beans to create. We use beans to do wall decorations you would not believe. Now we drink juice every day, we drink water every day, and we litter it here and there. Now the children are beginning to know that those bottles can actually be used for other things. What else can you use these bottles for? We use them to do the chairs. Instead of felling the trees and getting global warming, we use those plastics and we do comfortable chairs you can use at home.
Okay.
You would not believe that the first week, which on Sunday, it was the International Day of the African Child, which was the humanitarian rights, the child's rights first. That was okay. But do you know the children came for the conference and shockingly they were expecting to see a well-made-up hall. I gave them a plain open hall and chairs were scattered in the other rooms. I said, okay, we have an open hall and conference has to take place. What do we do? The little one for about 6 years said, Mommy Mofo, we have to go to the other rooms and sort out the chairs and then come and set up a hall. And then I was like, yeah, that's true. And before I could say yes or no, chairs came in and they set up a hall. They set it 3 consecutive times to get the right setting. And it was amazing. That was already first creating a bond between the children. Secondly, creativity.
Okay.
And thirdly, a desire to stand up and speak out boldly.
Okay, now I want us to watch a video of your project, what you actually launched on Sunday, the Day of the African Child. I want us to watch. We'll be right back.
Boy, incredible.
The world is a crazy place, but we all want to stay. Yeah, we know and go. We want to see, we want to know. We worry, but we carry on. Accept life as a happy song. we hope and sing along. Say mama and a baby, a brother, sister, maybe. Spread the word, share the hope of better days ahead. Smile to your neighbor, open the sunshine. Know the dark will not remain and scream, ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 yo, 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 yo.
Today is Children, African Children International Day.
International Day of the African Child.
Child.
Is that what you mean?
Yes.
So what did you learn today?
I learned that our parents, our father and mothers are the first that we're supposed to know. I learned that anything that comes through your mind, just speak it out or write it out on paper.
So as you are going,
I'll first wish my father happy Father's Day, and also since they taught us how to appreciate what our parents bought for us, anything that they do for us, it shows love also to appreciate.
My name is Kikishi Jason Fanka. We came today for a conference about the International Day of the African Child. We came today to learn about the duties and the rights of a child, African child. And also we came here to have an idea of what an African child can do for his continent. We also came here to know about things that we can accomplish for our country. The duty of an African child is to respect the parent and do what the parent asks him to do, and be grateful of what someone gives him, and respectful to his neighbor and one another. Every African child has the right to education, have the right to food, clothing, and shelter.
I learned that the African child started in South Africa when a child cried out for their rights, and more than 6,000 were killed. And I learned that children's rights are the right of education. The African child have to respect their parents, greet elders.
And I inviting the parents to bring the children here in the way that they can also receive training and mentoring from Madame Mofo with the other people who are assisting her.
As a mother myself, every day I see the little children around, I begin to ask myself, what should we do with these children every now and then? This particular program we're organizing, this is the second edition, which we started last year we want to do a commemoration of the International Day of the African Child by bringing the children in a one-day conference. And in this conference, we sensitize the children on, first we concentrate on the theme of every year, and then we sensitize the children to be able to stand up as a child and as an African. Being able to become who you really want to be, not influenced by anything outside the box. And this year, we're concentrating on the children's rights. And we focus very much on two topics, which are the child's rights, the child has the right to be in a family milieu. You need to have a father and a mother. And what is the role of a father and a mother in that child's life? That's being a
Welcome back. That's an initiative by Clementine. She's right here with us in the studio. Now, what's your focus with the children?
getting them creative. Yes, getting them creative and not getting them bored. Because boredom, they say money is the source of all evils, right? I say boredom is the source of all evil among children because they have a lot of energy inside of them. And if we don't focus that energy on the right thing, trust me.
Somebody will tell that holiday is meant for rest.
And those children don't rest because you're a human being, he's into psychology and stuff. He will explain to you that every human being is always giving and taking. There's always energy going out and coming in. It must go out, it must come in. Now, how do you control this energy to be channeled to the right directions? Okay, look like you cannot compare me and a child of probably 16 years old. Or you cannot compare a 16 years old and a 4 years old. You see hypers and the energies are in there. What are you doing with the energy? You need to be able to mentor that energy to go to the right channels.
Now, is that the best thing to do on holidays, sending a child? Is that the best?
I bet you it's the best. Let me explain why it's the best. During schools, they are going
Is it not possible you can also send a child maybe to the village to learn the culture and the rest?
I'll get there.
Okay.
Let me explain something.
Okay.
Keeping the children, for example, at home during holidays for them to rest, they are still creating something inside of them. And that energy will be channeled to the wrong areas.
Okay.
You just ask, should they be sent to the village? The energy is inside of them. It has to go out. Do you know who they'll be connecting with out there? You don't know yet. There are families and I trust grannies to spoil them for you. Now you ask me, is this the best thing they should do? During school days, they are being directed. You must do this, you must do this, you must do this. It is receiving knowledge from outside in. During this program, we do inside out.
Okay.
They allow you to think and release.
Okay.
Like that, that is when creativity and vision is being born.
Okay.
Vision is not born from outside in. Visions are born inside out. Everything that comes from within and goes out, it must grow. But that which you pick from left and right and it wants to associate itself is different. Now what happens to these children is, okay, this is a whole lot of time for you to waste. Let's not call it wasting. What can you do with this time? When the children first came, we asked them a couple of questions. We are not expecting every child to answer the same. Okay. This one says, I will, besides the school that I'm attending, I want to do this. Like, oh, okay. I think we can change these plastics into this. And then we start creating it. I don't tell them, you must use this plastic to do this. No.
Okay.
We tell them, okay, these are beads, these are African fabrics. What can we do with it? I can come up with this. I say, okay, let's try to do that. Can we get there? Before you know it, different ideas are coming up. And it's from within out, not more for telling you, do this.
But not all parents can afford it.
Don't worry about the parents not affording. Show the interest and you find your kid in there.
All right.
It's
now what's your take when you see children hockeying in the streets? I mean, you have some as young as 6.
I tell you, the child didn't ask for permission to come. You requested for the child to come. You need to be a parent.
Okay.
I will not condone with any parent who tells me you cannot understand what I'm going through. That child didn't write you a letter. If that child came on earth, you requested for that child. And if that child has come, do all
your
possible.
Best. Okay.
Not your best.
Okay.
Do all possible to be a parent.
Okay.
I will not accept any child running on the streets, under the rains, exposed to hazards, all sorts of hazards, social hazards, health hazards, and the rest.
All right.
Because they want to help you do what you cannot do. They didn't write a letter to you. So be a parent.
All right. How can we possibly, Frankie, end violence against women in times of conflict?
How can we solve that?
How can we solve it?
First of all, I think that the justice system has to do the job.
Okay.
Yeah.
By doing what exactly?
By actually condemning the perpetrator.
Okay.
That's number one. And number two.
Do the perpetrators need to denounce? They need to identify who the perpetrators are before.
Yeah, definitely. And if they identify, they have to be severely, condemned with the full force of the law.
Okay.
Yeah, and number two, just in a broad scheme, I think companies, schools have to do sexual harassment training because most when you go to high school, university, even primary, or to your first job in the West, you have to do it.
Okay.
Sexual harassment training.
All right.
And people need to speak up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking up, women need to speak up, especially victims.
Victims has to have the courage to speak up. Men and women needs to speak up, even if they don't know, not the victims.
All right. Now, just in 1 minute, I want you to talk to the women out there, especially those who are victims of sexual violence, especially those who are in the crisis zone right now, listening to you or watching you right now.
I would tell them, you are not alone. There's a lot of support out there. People who really care about you and will be there to support you and take you all the way to your own respect and esteem. Speak up, don't be afraid, and we will be there to protect you because you deserve the best this world has to offer.
All right, Clementine, your last word to parents, especially those who are still keeping their children back at home. They don't want to make the children be creative or make good use of the long vacation. In few words.
My last word, is don't allow those children to be exposed. Send them to me, regardless of those bills, all right? We can work something out. Just call the number, one of my collaborators will call you, will pick it up and link you directly with me. And we can always make something up. The space is perfect for us all, and you'll be rest assured the children within the time they will be with us, you will not regret, and they are not exposed. Their energies are directed. Let them not be exposed to the violence I'm hearing right now, which I don't like to hear.
All right, I want to thank you all for responding to our invitation to you out there. If you did watch the program, I'm sure you've learned a lesson. Learned a lesson. They'll take another round of the same time next week. Goodbye.